Commander Zarek stood on the command deck of the Harvester, his golden eyes reflecting the holographic display of a small blue planet on the outer rim of the galaxy. The organic metallic fusion of the ship pulsed around him, almost alive because it was in many ways. The vessel, like all Sithid technology, was as much a living entity as it was a machine. Supreme Commander Nix approached her slender form, gliding across the biodeck. The scouts have returned with their initial assessment of the target world. The year 3457 by Galactic Standard Time had been prosperous for the Sithids. As apex predators of the known universe, they had assimilated and harvested dozens of developed species, absorbing their genetic material and enhancing their own supremacy. No species had offered meaningful resistance in centuries. What did they find? Zarek asked, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the living walls of the ship. Nix extended her hand, the skin on her palm parting, to reveal a bioorganic data crystal. A primitive species calling themselves humans. Their biology appears simple, though they've achieved basic space travel within their own system. They possess no technology that could pose a threat to us. Zarek took the crystal, inserting it into a receptor on the command console. The hologram expanded, showing cities, military installations, and biological readouts of the planet's dominant species. Another simple harvest, then, he concluded with the closest thing to a smile his species could manage. Their genetic material will make a fine addition to our collective. There is one unusual note. Nix hesitated, her scientific caution evident. Their adaptation rate shows some interesting patterns. They evolved from prey animals, not predators, like most sentient species we've encountered. From the shadows of the command deck emerged Vesnar, the tactical advisor, whose body bore the genetic markers of dozens of conquered species. His limbs were a testament to the Scythids' ability to incorporate useful traits from their conquests. Prey or predator, they will fall like all the others, Vesnar growled. Their planet has resources we need, and their genetic material will be assessed for useful traits. The rest will be processed as usual. I simply suggest a more thorough study before full-scale invasion, Nix countered. Their adaptability indexes show anomalous. Your concerns are noted, Chief Biologist, Zarek interrupted. But unnecessary. Begin harvest preparations. I want deployment within one planetary rotation. As Nix reluctantly withdrew to prepare her biological research units, Vesnar approached the commander. You indulge her caution too much, the tactical advisor said. These humans are nothing. Our reconnaissance shows primitive weaponry, disunited governance, and no awareness of life beyond their world. Zarek's eyes narrowed. Caution has kept the Sithids at the apex for millennia, Vesnar. But in this case, I agree. This will be a simple harvest. What neither of them knew was that the Sithids' stealth technology, perfect against all previously encountered species, had failed in one crucial aspect. Earth's vast satellite network, designed to detect even the smallest space debris, had registered anomalous readings. Deep in underground facilities, human scientists were already analyzing the data, preparing for what they suspected was coming. On the blue planet below, Major Sarah Foster stood in the Joint Planetary Defense Command Center, staring at satellite imagery that officially didn't exist. You're certain these readings indicate artificial objects? She asked the technician. Yes, Major. Whatever they are, they're not natural and they're not ours. Foster's face remained impassive, but her mind raced with implications. Humanity had prepared for this theoretical moment for generations, but preparation and readiness were entirely different things. Alert Command, initiate Protocol Sentinel. We may have first contact, and I don't think they're here for cultural exchange. As the Harvester prepared its invasion force, both species moved toward a collision neither fully understood, but which would forever change them both. The assault began at dawn. Scythid dropships, biomechanical monstrosities that resembled massive insects descended upon Earth's major cities without warning. Their otherworldly forms blotted out the morning sun as they disgorged wave after wave of assault of invasion forces. In New York, Tokyo, London, and a dozen other metropolitan centers, the scene repeated with mechanical precision. Humans, for all their scientific advancement and military preparation, found themselves overwhelmed by technology centuries beyond their comprehension. Fall back to secondary positions, Major Foster shouted over the tactical communications network as reports of devastating losses poured in from all fronts. Her command center, now relocated to a hardened facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, shook with distant impacts. Conventional weapons are ineffective against their biologics. Switch to electromagnetic pulse configurations. Across the globe, human military forces that had survived the initial onslaught retreated in what appeared to be chaotic disorder, but was in fact a pre-planned defensive strategy. The newly formed Earth Nations Alliance ENA had anticipated that any species capable of interstellar travel would possess overwhelming technological superiority. Their only hope lay in adaptation, not confrontation. In one of the many underground research facilities that had been prepared for this eventuality, Dr. Marcus Wright worked feverishly. His laboratory, filled with the most advanced equipment humanity could produce, now hosted something entirely new, captured Scythid biological material. The cellular structure is unlike anything we've seen, he muttered to his research team as they examined the alien tissue. It's almost as if each cell contains complete genetic information for the entire organism, but activated selectively based on need. That would explain their shape-shifting abilities, his colleague added. The field reports describe them adapting to environmental conditions within minutes. Wright nodded grimly. More concerning is this. He gestured to a simulation showing human cells interacting with Scythid biological material. They don't just kill, they consume and repurpose. Anyone captured isn't just dead, they're converted. Above ground, the horror of this reality was playing out across captured territories. Humans who had been overwhelmed by the initial attack were being systematically processed in massive biological conversion centers, once proud skyscrapers, now transformed into pulsing organic hives, where the line between technology and biology blurred horrifically. On the Harvester Supreme Commander, Zarek received the initial conquest reports with satisfaction. The first phase proceeds as expected. He noted to Vesnar, their military response is primitive disorganized. They're retreating on all fronts. As I predicted, Vesnar replied smugly. This species will be fully harvested within one standard cycle. Their genetic material shows some interesting resilience traits, but nothing exceptional. Nyx, however, appeared troubled as she analyzed the data streaming from the surface. Commander, I'm detecting anomalies in the battle patterns. Their retreats appear coordinated, and examination of captured communication devices suggests they were expecting us. Impossible. Vesnar dismissed. Pre-contact species cannot anticipate first encounters. Unless they detected our arrival, Nyx persisted. And their biological responses to our conversion process show unusual adaptation rates. Some subjects are resisting the cellular reprogramming longer than expected. Zarek frowned. Increase conversion catalyst deployment. I want this planet secured before the primary fleet arrives for full harvesting. Back on Earth, in the Secure Command Center, Major Foster met with the ENA Security Council via holographic conference. The alien forces, these Scythids, based on the limited communication we've intercepted, have established control of approximately 30% of Earth's surface, she reported. Most major population centers are either under their control or evacuated. And our countermeasures, asked the council chair. Dr. Wright's team has made a breakthrough, Foster replied, nodding to the scientist who stepped into view. The Scythids appear to be apex predators who've evolved by assimilating genetic material from conquered species Wright explained. Their entire biology and technology is based on adaptation and assimilation. However, this presents a vulnerability. Their systems have never encountered Earth's specific microbiome. You're suggesting biological warfare, the chair stated flatly. I'm suggesting we use what makes humanity unique, Wright corrected. Our planet's evolutionary history has created microbial life forms that the Scythids have never encountered. Some of our common bacteria and viruses may be completely novel to their systems. Major Foster leaned forward. We need to buy Dr. Wright's team time to develop this countermeasure. That means sacrificing some regions to protect our research facilities. The silence that followed weighed heavily on every participant, but the decision was inevitable. Humanity was fighting for survival itself. Do what you must, Major, the chair finally said. Humanity's continued existence is the only acceptable outcome. As the meeting concluded, Wright returned to his laboratory where his team had made another startling discovery. On the screen before them, Scythid cells exposed to certain Earth bacteria were showing unexpected reactions. Look at this, his colleague said excitedly. The common Pseudomonas bacteria is disrupting their cellular communication. They can't maintain cohesion when exposed to it. Wright stared at the results, a glimmer of hope forming. It's not just fighting the infection, it's struggling to adapt to something completely outside its evolutionary experience. For the first time since the invasion began, a path to resistance had opened. In the converted cities, the Scythids' biological architecture spread like a cancer. Buildings became interconnected with pulsing organic matter. Streets transformed into neural pathways for the collective intelligence directing the invasion. Captured humans were processed in conversion chambers, their genetic material harvested, their bodies repurposed as hosts for Scythid consciousness. Yet even as the aliens advanced, they encountered increasing resistance. Human forces now operating in guerrilla-style units had adapted remarkably quickly to Scythid tactics. They used the invaders' predictable attack patterns against them, setting traps and ambushes that should not have been possible for a species encountering Scythids for the first time. On the Harvester Zarek received concerning reports from field commanders. The humans are adapting to our tactics faster than anticipated, Nix observed. Their resistance is becoming more effective, not less. Impossible, Vesnar insisted. They are primitive. They cannot comprehend our superior methods so quickly, and yet they are, Zarek said grimly, studying the battle analytics. Field Commander Zith reports losing an entire battalion to primitive explosives in a coordinated ambush. Commander Vral's conversion center was infiltrated and sabotaged. Their biological adaptability extends to their thinking, Nix suggested. I warned that their evolution from prey species might have given them different survival strategies than we typically encounter. Zarek's golden eyes narrowed. Perhaps this harvest requires my personal attention after all. His decision marked a significant departure from standard Scythid protocol. Supreme Commanders rarely involved themselves directly in harvesting operations, especially against pre-interstellar species. The fact that humanity had forced such involvement was, though none of them would admit it, unprecedented. As Zarek prepared to lead the next assault wave personally, Nix continued her research into human biology. What she discovered disturbed her deeply. The humans were not merely adapting tactically, their very biology showed signs of accelerated adaptation when exposed to Scythid biological agents. Instead of succumbing completely, some human subjects were developing partial resistances, their cells incorporating elements of Scythid biology while maintaining human characteristics. This should not be possible, she whispered to herself, reviewing the data again. No species they had encountered in millennia of conquest had shown such rapid biological adaptation. It violated the fundamental principles of Scythid dominance hierarchy. On Earth, the resistance had coalesced around Major Foster's strategic leadership and Dr. Wright's scientific breakthroughs. Underground facilities that had once been theoretical, doomsday preparations now served as humanity's last hope. The modified bacteriophage shows 87% effectiveness against their biological components in laboratory conditions, Wright reported to Foster. But we need to deliver it to their command structure, the Harvester itself. That's a suicide mission, Foster replied, studying the limited intelligence they had gathered on the massive alien vessel orbiting Earth. Their defenses are impenetrable with our current technology. Not entirely, Wright countered. Their ships are partially biological. They need to process atmospheric samples to adapt to new environments. Their ventilation systems are vulnerable if we can get close enough. Foster considered this. We'd need a small team. Stealth approach using one of their own shuttles. We've captured several mostly intact. There's something else, Wright added hesitantly. I've been monitoring the biological changes in exposed personnel. Those who survived initial contact with scythid bioweapons are showing changes. Enhanced strength, accelerated healing, but also genetic instability. Foster understood the implication immediately. You're suggesting we use compromised personnel for this mission. I'm suggesting we use what may be our only advantage. These individuals have already begun adapting to scythid biology. They may be able to blend in at least partially. The ethical implications were enormous, but so was the alternative humanity's extinction. Prepare your virus, Foster decided. I'll assemble the team. Meanwhile, across the ravaged planet, a disturbing development emerged. Some human populations, seeing the seemingly unstoppable advance of the scythids, began advocating for voluntary conversion. They formed cults that worshipped the invaders as evolutionary superiors, offering themselves for ascension. We should be honored to contribute our genetic material to the next stage of evolution, proclaimed the leader of one such group addressing followers via encrypted channels. Resistance is not only futile, it's backwards. The Scythids represent what humanity could become. These collaborators complicated the resistance efforts, providing the invaders with intelligence on ENA operations and sabotaging defensive preparations. The psychological impact of seeing fellow humans embrace the enemy threatened to shatter already fragile morale. Foster dealt with these traitors harshly. Any human aiding the Scythids will be considered an enemy combatant, she declared in a rare public broadcast. There will be no negotiation, no surrender. Humanity stands together, or we fall forever. As Earth's defenders struggled with these internal conflicts, Zarek led a devastating assault on the resistance stronghold in what had once been the Swiss Alps. The battle raged for days with human forces using the mountainous terrain to counterbalance the Scythids' technological superiority. Their tactical adaptation is remarkable, Zarek admitted to Nix after returning to the Harvester. His exoskeleton bore the marks of actual combat, another unprecedented occurrence. They anticipate our standard formations now. They've developed weapons that can penetrate our biological shields. I've completed my genetic analysis, Nix responded. The humans possess an unusual genetic plasticity. Their evolutionary history includes multiple bottleneck events that should have rendered them extinct. Instead, each crisis appears to have accelerated their adaptive capabilities. You admire them. Zarek observed his tone neutral but probing. I find them scientifically fascinating, Nix corrected carefully. And potentially concerning. Some human subjects are showing integration with our genetic material that goes beyond normal assimilation. They're creating novel hybridization that our systems cannot predict. Before Zarek could respond, Vesnar entered the command chamber. Supreme Commander, our sensors have detected an unauthorized departure from Harvesting Zone 7. A shuttle using Scythid signatures, but with irregular flight patterns. Zarek's eyes narrowed. The humans have captured one of our vessels. Track it. Already done. It appears to be on an intercept course with the Harvester. A desperate attack. Zarek wondered aloud. Or something else. Prepare defense countermeasures, but I want prisoners for examination. The stolen shuttle, piloted by a team of 6 humans, led by Major Foster herself, approached the massive alien vessel with calculated precision. Each member of the strike team showed varying degrees of biological changes, from previous scythid exposure, enhanced strength, accelerated healing, and in some cases, physical alterations that made them appear partially scythid. Bioscanners show minimal activity, reported the team's technical specialist. The virus delivery system is ready. Foster nodded, her eyes, now flecked with gold, focusing on the mission parameters displayed before her. The changes to her body had accelerated in recent days, bringing with them strange sensations and occasional glimpses of alien thought patterns. Dr. Wright had warned that the changes might affect cognitive processes as well as physical attributes, but there had been no alternatives. Remember, she told her team, we only get one chance at this. The virus must reach their central atmospheric processing system. Once released, it will spread through their entire biological network. The shuttle docked with the harvester through what appeared to be an unused maintenance port. As they emerged into the alien vessel, the team was struck by the environment, neither fully mechanical nor entirely organic, but a disturbing fusion of both. Walls pulsed, with what could only be described as circulatory systems. Floors reacted to their presence, and the very air seemed alive with microscopic organisms. Stay focused, Foster whispered, feeling an unsettling resonance between her altered biology and the ship around them. We need to reach the central processor. They moved through the vessel, their partially altered biology helping them avoid immediate detection. Foster realized with growing unease that she could somehow sense the ship's layout, as if the scythid elements in her DNA were connecting with the vessel's biological components. Meanwhile, in his command center, Zarek sensed the intruders. Something is wrong, he told Nyx and Vesnar. The harvester is reporting biological anomaly signatures that are neither fully scythid nor completely foreign. The humans, Nyx realized, the ones showing integration with our genetic material, they're aboard. Impossible, Vesnar dismissed. Our biological security would recognize and neutralize any foreign organism. Unless that organism is no longer entirely foreign, Nyx countered. I warned about their adaptive capabilities. Zarek made his decision instantly. Lock down all central systems. I will deal with this myself. He turned to Nyx. Continue your analysis. If these humans have indeed found a way to integrate our biology with theirs, I need to know how and what it means. As Foster's team approached the atmospheric processing center, ship defenses finally recognized them as threats. Biological security measures activated walls, sprouted defensive appendages, corridors sealed with organic barriers, and scythid warriors converged on their position. We're compromised, Foster shouted as her team engaged the defenders. Alpha Team, hold them here. Beta with me to complete the mission. The battle that ensued was chaotic and brutal. The human strike team, enhanced by their partial scythid biology, fought with unprecedented effectiveness against the alien warriors. Their weapons, designed by Dr. Wright specifically to target scythid biological weaknesses, caused cascading cellular failures in the enemy forces. Foster and 2 remaining team members broke through to the atmospheric processing center, a massive chamber dominated by structures resembling enormous lungs and filtering organs. They began preparing the virus delivery system when the chamber's main entrance dissolved to reveal Zarek himself. Remarkable, the Supreme Commander observed, studying the intruders with genuine curiosity. You've incorporated our genetic material and maintained autonomous function. No species has achieved this before. We didn't ask for your genetic material, Foster replied, continuing to work on the delivery system while her teammates provided cover. But we'll use every advantage to drive you from our world. Your resistance is impressive, but ultimately futile. Zarek advanced his form shifting as combat adaptations manifested. The Scythids have harvested 1,000 worlds more advanced than yours. But you've never encountered humans before? Foster countered. The fight that followed was unlike any in Zarek's long existence. The human leader moved with impossible speed and intuition, anticipating his attacks in ways no prey species should be capable of. More disturbing still, he sensed her biology adapting during the combat itself, responding to his offensive measures in real time. While Foster engaged Zarek, her teammates completed preparing the virus. One fell to Zarek's attacks, but the other successfully activated the delivery mechanism before being struck down. The virus based on common Earth bacteria, but modified to specifically target the Scythid biological network, began dispersing through the atmospheric system. Alarms sounded throughout the Harvester as the biological components of the vessel detected the contagion. Zarek, momentarily distracted by the ship's distress, found himself wounded by Foster's attack, another unprecedented event. "What have you done?" he demanded, golden eyes wide with what might have been the first fear a Scythid had felt in millennia. "We've evolved," Foster answered simply. In the research sector, Nyx watched in fascination and horror as the virus spread through the Harvester's systems. Unlike conventional weapons, this pathogen didn't simply damage, it rewrote. The ship's biological components began failing not because they were dying, but because they were changing into something the control systems could no longer recognize. "Fascinating," she whispered, understanding. Immediately what the humans had accomplished. They hadn't just created a weapon, they had initiated forced evolution within the Scythid systems themselves, making a decision that would forever mark her as either savior or traitor to her species. Nyx moved quickly to a communication terminal, downloading critical research data on the human-Scythid integration. When Foster and Zarek's battle brought them near her position, she made her presence known. "Human?" she called to Foster. "The virus is working, but the ship's defense systems are attempting to counter-adapt. You must leave now if you hope to survive." Zarek stared at his chief biologist in shock. "You betray your own kind." "I preserve our kind," Nyx countered. "This species is different, Commander. Continuing this harvest could destroy the Scythids entirely. Our evolutionary paradigm cannot account for their adaptability." The ship shuddered violently as biological systems failed across multiple sectors. Foster, seeing her opportunity, struck Zarek again before turning to Nyx. "Why help me?" "Because evolution demands respect," the alien scientist replied, extending a data crystal. "Take this. It contains information about the integration occurring within your body. Your Dr. Wright will need it if your species is to survive what comes next." Foster hesitated only briefly before accepting the crystal. "And what comes next?" "Change," Nyx said simply. "For both our species." As sections of the Harvester began catastrophic biological failure, Foster retreated to the shuttle where one surviving team member awaited. They detached from the dying vessel, watching as the massive Scythid flagship began to break apart in Earth's orbit. On the command deck, Zarek issued his final orders to the invasion fleet. "Recall all ground forces. Terminate harvesting operations. This world is now classified as a predator world, not prey." Vesnar was apoplectic. "Supreme Commander, we cannot retreat from primitive." "They are not primitive." Zarek cut him off, watching as his mighty vessel disintegrated around him. "They are evolving faster than we can harvest them. Continued engagement threatens the entire Scythid collective." The retreat order spread across Earth as Scythid forces abandoned their conversion centers and harvesting operations. The invaders' withdrawal was not clean. Many biological structures remained continuing to function independently, even as their controlling intelligence departed. These remnants would present ongoing challenges for humanity long after the main Scythid fleet had departed the solar system. In the aftermath, Earth was forever changed. Cities once transformed into alien hives now stood as bizarre monuments to the invasion, their architecture forever altered by biological components that could not be fully removed. More concerning were the effects on the human population itself. 6 months after the Scythids' retreat, Foster met with Dr. Wright in what had once been the Ingolmones Emergency Headquarters and was now the center for the newly established Evolutionary Response Division. The changes are accelerating. Wright informed her, displaying genetic scans on the laboratory's main screen. Approximately 15% of the global population shows some degree of genetic alteration from Scythid exposure. Most changes are minor: increased healing rates, enhanced sensory perception. But some, like yours, Major. Foster understood. Her transformation had progressed significantly. Golden flecks now dominated her irises. Her physical strength and reflexes had doubled, and most concerning, she occasionally experienced thoughts and impulses that felt distinctly alien. The data Nix provided has been invaluable, Wright continued. Without it, we would have no way to stabilize the integration process. As it stands, we can prevent complete transformation in most cases, but we cannot reverse changes that have already occurred. And the long-term prognosis? Foster asked. Wright hesitated. Humanity is branching, Major. Within several generations, we may see distinct subspecies emerge. Those most heavily exposed to Scythid biology are becoming something new, neither fully human nor Scythid, but a third path. Foster absorbed this. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Our humanity saved us our adaptability, our determination. If we're evolving into something stronger while maintaining those core traits, that's the philosophical question the world's leaders are struggling with. Wright acknowledged. Is this invasion the end of humanity as we know it, or the catalyst for our next evolutionary leap? And if the latter, was that leap inevitable regardless? In deep space aboard the Scythid command carrier that now led the retreating fleet, Zarek made his report to the Supreme Council, the eldest and most evolved of their species. The Earth operation was a strategic failure, he stated without embellishment. The human species possesses adaptive capabilities beyond our predictive models. Continued harvesting operations would risk biological contamination of the collective. The Supreme Archon, whose form incorporated genetic material from hundreds of harvested species across thousands of years, considered this report. You believe this species poses a genuine threat to the Scythids? A pre-interstellar civilization. I believe Zarek chose his words carefully, that they represent an evolutionary path we have not encountered before. Their adaptation rate exceeds our ability to assimilate. More concerning, they have demonstrated the ability to incorporate our genetic material while maintaining their core identity and autonomy. And Chief Biologist Nix Ubit report her actions as cooperative with the humans. Her actions preserved critical genetic research that may help us understand this new threat. Zarek defended his subordinate. Without that data, we would face this species blind in future encounters. The Archon was silent for a long moment. Future encounters. Inevitable, Zarek confirmed. The humans now possess samples of our technology and biology. Their rate of advancement, already remarkable, will accelerate exponentially. I estimate no more than 50 standard cycles before they achieve interstellar capability. When that happens, they will come looking for us. Then we must be prepared, the Archon decided. This sector will be marked with the highest warning classification. All Scythid operations will avoid human space. Meanwhile, your research division will focus exclusively on understanding their adaptive capabilities. If we cannot harvest them, we must at least understand them. As the audience concluded, Zarek returned to his new command vessel. Nix awaited him in his private chambers, her expression unreadable. The Council has accepted your research priority, he informed her. You will have whatever resources you require to study the human adaptation phenomenon. It may be more than a phenomenon, Nix replied. My preliminary analysis of the remaining data suggests their adaptability may be linked to ancient genetic engineering. There are markers in their DNA that resemble progenitor techniques. Zarek's golden eyes widened slightly, the only indication of his shock. The progenitors were a semi-mythical species, believed to have seeded the galaxy with life eons ago before the rise of the Scythids. You believe humans are progenitor experiments. I believe, Nix said carefully, that we may have encountered them before in a less developed form and misclassified them as harmless. A critical error. The implication hung between them unspoken, but clear. If humans were indeed connected to the progenitors, then the Scythids' assumption of evolutionary supremacy might be fundamentally flawed. Back on Earth, Foster stood on a hilltop overlooking what had once been Washington, D.C. The city's skyline was now dominated by the partially organic structures left behind by the Scythids, beautiful and alien in the sunset light. Her enhanced vision could detect the subtle movements within these structures as they continued their slow, purposeless growth. Without their creator's guidance, the data crystal from Nix had revealed something Foster had not yet shared with Dr. Wright or the ENA leadership. The Scythids had encountered humanity before thousands of years ago. They had dismissed early humans, labeled them an unremarkable species, and moved on to more promising harvesting grounds. That dismissal might have been their greatest mistake, allowing humanity to develop in isolation, evolving capabilities that defied the Scythids' understanding of biological progression. She touched the communication device at her wrist, connecting to the global defense network that now monitored space for any sign of the Scythids' return. Humanity was not waiting passively. The recovered alien technology was already being reverse-engineered, integrated with human innovation to create defenses against future threats. More importantly, humanity was embracing its changing nature. The altered humans, now informally called ADAPs, were forming the core of a new space exploration initiative. Their enhanced capabilities made them uniquely suited for the challenges of deep space and potential first contact scenarios with other species. Foster's golden eyes turned upward to the stars, now appearing in the darkening sky. "We'll meet again," she whispered, not entirely sure whether the thought originated from her human consciousness or from the integrated Scythid aspects of her evolving mind. "And next time we won't be defending, we'll be hunting." In the vast darkness between stars, two species that had once believed themselves to be predator and prey now prepared for a future neither had anticipated. The Scythids, for the first time in millennia, knew. Fear. Humanity, for the first time in its existence, glimpsed its potential beyond the constraints of natural evolution. The galaxy would never be the same again.